Don't chase happiness, attract it. Those are the 5 words that are rapidly changing my life at the moment, and I genuinely think they could change yours too. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Joel, I'm 19, and I'm a psychology student who has spent about the last 4 years trying to figure out a philosophy for life that generates true happiness amongst the noise, negativity, and mental illness of our world. And by the end of this video, you will know what I've learned so far. So here's a question for you. What do you think the similarities are between philosophy from the 1800s and 21st century dating advice? Now, what you're probably thinking, well, not much at all, and Joel, how the hell does this link to happiness? But stay with me and let me explain. In about the 1880s, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "Happiness chases after me, because I do not chase women, but happiness is a woman." And now if we look to 21st century dating advice, it seems the general notion is that you should not chase after potential romantic partners because that makes you seem desperate. Instead, you should work on yourself and become more valuable in the dating market so that you attract potential romantic partners just as a consequence of who you are. To put it in a nice poetic metaphor, don't chase after butterflies, mend your garden, and watch the butterflies flock to you. Now, in a similar way, I don't think we can chase true happiness. To me, chasing happiness feels similar to pursuing impulsive pleasures, right? Eating the cake, playing the video games, buying the expensive clothes. And these behaviors will evoke a short-term, shallow amount of positive emotion. But you will probably relate to this, right? We feel good for a short time, but it fades. And it just numbs our mind. It isn't true happiness and deep meaning and deep fulfillment. And just like attracting a high-quality romantic partner through making yourself more valuable in the dating market, I think true happiness actually comes to you in this life, i.e. you attract it because of the person that you are and the person that you're becoming. Let me explain. Recently, I traveled around the Italian island of Sardinia, and it was one of the happiest trips of my life. And while I was sat on a beach, staring out at the sea with a cold beverage in hand, I realized something that has been rent-free in my mind ever since. Happiness manifests in you when you don't want to be anywhere else. Happiness, to me, emerges from within you when you're at peace with who and where you are, what you're doing, and where your life is going. Think about it this way. If you're full of insecurity, you won't be happy. If you're riddled with anxiety about how the world perceives you, you won't be happy. If you don't feel like what you do in your life genuinely matters, you won't be happy. And if you instead desire to be somewhere else other than the present moment, then guess what? You won't be happy. And I could list so many more examples like this, but the overall conclusion is this. True happiness is our baseline mental state when we have managed all of our mental afflictions and all the distractions from the present moment. And I've used the word managed there very purposefully because you're never going to get to a point where you have solved mental afflictions, right? Anxiety, insecurity, and wanting to be in the past or future are psychological features that are baked into the human experience. You can't escape them. But if you learn to sort out and manage the emotional clutter in your mind, I genuinely believe that it increases the probability that from time to time, happiness bubbles up from the surface. So we've explored the theory that being at peace with who you are right here, right now, attracts a level of true happiness into your life. But this final, most important section is about how being at peace with who you are right here, right now, takes a whole lot of work. But let's be honest with ourselves for a second, right? By default, do we really like ourselves? If we didn't consciously work on who we are and work on the person we're becoming, to me it seems logical that we would just give in to our vices, right? We would become more irresponsible, we become more lazy. And the reality is, no one really likes people like that. So it's not surprising that if you let yourself go on that kind of level, which we all do from time to time, then you wouldn't really be the biggest fan of yourself. But the great thing that I really want to emphasize in this video is that if attracting true happiness just takes a level of self-work, which I believe it does, then you can actually do it, right? Work can actually be done. We can take control of a large proportion of the happiness in our lives by courageously working on ourselves, instead of putting our mental health as a responsibility of things outside of ourselves like society or other people. On a personal level, I really think I can say that over the last few weeks, I have been the happiest I can remember. And that is only because of the self-work that I've done over the last 4 years. The amount of work and training I've put towards being an athlete means that I am the best at my sport I've ever been, and that is creating so many good new opportunities in my life. And the amount of work I've put into studying or learning means that I have a lot more to say in these videos and on the podcast, which satisfies my curiosity. And I hate saying stuff like this, right? Because it does make me sound like a dickhead, and I understand that. So I want to caveat it with, obviously I'm an unfinished project. I'm fallible to all the mental afflictions that I mentioned previously in this video. But I am really enjoying the movie that I'm watching through my eyeballs right now, more than I ever have previously. And I believe it's a direct cause of the self-work that Joel at 16, 17 years old. So this is my important call to action for you for this video. If you know you aren't as happy as you maybe could be, then it's time to work on yourself. It's my belief that self-work has two main dimensions: acceptance of the things about yourself you cannot change, and then a dedication to graft for the things that you can. This involves paying close attention to the mental afflictions that take you away from the present moment and make you desire to be somebody else. Can you change them? And if the answer is yes, what could you and would you do to change them? And if the answer is no, then just accept them and let them go. Now, all of this is so much easier said than done, and I get that, right? But I don't have the time in this video to go through your specific situation or help you set up your habits and tell you what to prioritize and all of that. However, the videos that I've made over the past 2 years are basically me documenting my attempts to work on myself and sharing my lessons and what has helped me. Overall though, I can say this with full conviction. If you consciously work on yourself, become a more competent, valuable version of you, then you don't desire to be anywhere or anyone else. You are at peace with who you are in the present moment. And in that you attract true happiness and deep fulfillment that no one can take away from you because you've done the work. You genuinely like who you are. And as much as life is difficult, it's worth it because it's your own. You enjoy the movie you're watching through your own eyes. And that's my philosophy for happiness. If you did find some value in this video, I really suggest you watch this one next, where I take a deeper dive into managing some of the mental afflictions that I mentioned earlier. So hopefully I'll see you over there. With that said, thank you so much for watching.